Good day, good day, good day, people. So, hey, look, I'm gonna give you a little Bible verse today. Matthew 18:3. I want you to look it up, especially if you're somebody that has children between the ages of 3 and about 7. And the reason for that, because in Matthew 18:3, Jesus tells his followers for them to be like the little children, or be like little children. And what he means by that, in my interpretation of this, given the fact that I look at the Bible as a metaphysical instruction manual for how to live an abundant life, if you look at that passage, he's talking about the fact that adults are so logical. We always got to figure out how. We always got to reason with something. And if you're an adult that has children that are between the ages of 3 and 7, one of the things that you realize is that they are constantly in their imagination. They'll carry on full-on conversations with you, and you have no idea where they're at. They do. They know exactly where they're at, but you don't have a clue. And here's something else. How many of you have seen, this is about dealing with the 3D, by the way, okay? And I want you to see how a child deals with the 3D. So let's take a look. Now, this is something that I actually witnessed about 2 weeks ago, okay? I'm going to change the names of the children. Don't worry. But in it, Tommy comes out of the house, and he's got a little cape wrapped around his neck. And Tommy has a little chihuahua, and he's got a little towel hooked into his collar, okay? Because Tommy is Superman, of course, and the dog is Superdog, right? Got it? Follow it? Sarah comes outside, and she's got a jump rope, and of course a little cape around her neck, and we can all guess who she is. She's Wonder Woman trying to lasso poor Superdog, okay? And then there was another child that came a little later. We're going to call him Braxton because he looks like a Braxton to me. And Braxton was running around with tinfoil wrapped around everything. And again, we can imagine who he was. Iron Man. Now, Tommy needed to go in for lunch, and his mother called him and said, "Tommy, come in for lunch." And Tommy says, "No, I'm busy right now." And she says, "What are you busy doing?" Then he put his little hands on his, made a fist out of his little hands and put them on his hips and said, "I'm Superman," and did the Superman pose. And he was good. And his mother said, now this is what I want you to watch. His mother said, "No, Tommy, you're just a little boy and it's time for lunch. Come inside." Tommy stood there, stomped his foot, kept his hands in a fist on his hips, and said, "No, I'm Superman." Picked up his chihuahua and wandered off towards the other little kids. I sat there and watched the whole thing, and I said, this is the perfect description of somebody who is living in their imagination. Tommy, of course, was living in his imagination. And when the 3D came to ruin his parade, he said, "No, that's not happening because I'm Superman." I, you could not have painted a better picture of this to outline how you deal with the 3D. He didn't fight the 3D. He didn't argue so much with the 3D. He just said, nope, I'm Superman, and went about his business. And the mom just stood there in the door looking stupid, as the 3D does all the time. And so, folks, you've heard me say before, to be like little children. And we could learn so much from a child when it comes to this manifesting game of life. Because the whole concept behind manifesting is living from your imagination, living from the wish fulfilled. Okay? Tommy wanted to be Superman. So in his imagination, he was Superman. He did everything he could to imagine that he was Superman. Even had Superdog and had a cape. Okay? Even did the Superman pose. I was impressed with that Superman pose. And so, folks, this is where we miss it. Because we get so hung up on, okay, how am I supposed to do this? How am I supposed to, what affirmations are the perfect affirmation? There is no perfect affirmation, and then every single affirmation is perfect. It's not the affirmation. It's not the technique. It's what you are feeling in that moment, that now moment. At that now moment, Tommy was Superman. And there wasn't anything his mom was going to do at that point in time. Okay? Now, I didn't stick around to see exactly how she dealt with that situation. I was busy writing my notes about what I had just witnessed. And so, at that point, I just remembered Matthew 18:3, where Jesus tells his followers to be more like children, like little children. Okay? And that's what we need to be. One of the biggest things now that I tell my new clients from just the last week has been, if you have little children, I want you to go and watch them as they play. Watch Sally as she is the teacher and she gathers up all her little friends and she's sitting there teaching them about something. Okay? Or little Mary is sitting there with her little stuffed animals around a teeny tiny table with teeny tiny teacups and having a tea party. There are child's toys manufacturers that have made millions off of kids' imaginations, because they saw that little girls like to have little tea parties. And so with that, they said, we're going to accommodate that. And made all those little teapots and little teacups and saucers and stuff, and these little kids just having a blast playing in their imagination. My daughter was an only child, and she'll today tell you that she's so happy that she was an only child, because that allowed her no one else to deal with her imagination. She was in her imagination by herself, and she loved it. Folks, this is where we really need to get. We need to understand that we need to get into our imagination. and we need to stay there as much as we can. And when we do have something that tells us in the 3D to go, that's opposing our imagination or our desire, we need to stop, not fight with it, acknowledge that it's there. That's exactly what Tommy did. Tommy said, I acknowledge that you're there, Mom, but yeah, no, I'm Superman. And that's what we need to do. We need to acknowledge that we are there in that circumstance, but we don't accept it as ours. Tommy didn't accept the fact that he was actually Tommy at that moment. In that moment, he was Superman. And that's where we need to get. We need to get to that point to where we're not accepting the fact that the 3D is telling us something that we don't want to see. We need to accept that we are that person that we desire to be. And we are that person now, not in the future sometime. Okay? Because if you look at it like you're that person in the future sometime, you will always be that person in the future sometime. It will never come to fruition for you. And that's the issue that we have. That's the issue that many of us have. We always put that off into the future. No, it needs to happen now. You are that person now. Live from that person in your imagination, in that fourth dimension now. Folks, thanks for listening. And remember, you've got this. Also, if you want to work with me, I'm going to provide some information for you. Just email me at anthony@livingtheend.com. And we will get you going on that. And then also, we have another channel that's called Anthony's Answers. And in that, I answer a bunch of your questions. Now, I wanted to have a video every week. The last week and a half has been a complete nightmare for me. But everything is all comfy cozy now. So we will get back on track on that. And I just wanted to share that information with you folks. So thanks for listening. And remember, again, you've got this.